I don't know when it airs. I'm going to do it. Let's do the Fox Fox Atlanta thing. So anyway, yesterday, I was at Martha Zoller's homegoing service. We talked about that yesterday, and I sat behind Lori Geary of Georgia Gang and also my good friend Theron Johnson. They sat in front of me, and also Lee May was there, and Marita was also there from the Georgia Gang, and I sat right behind them. And so Theron Johnson, he's on Georgia Gang, but he also does something on Fox 5 Atlanta called Red Clay Rundown, where they talk politics. So when I was at the homegoing service, he said, hey, you came up on the show that I do. And I said, oh, really? So he sent me the clip. And my other good friend, who was kind of representing the Republican side, Carmen Bergman of Greater Georgia. She's been on the show before. Beautiful young lady, a brilliant young lady. They were on there, and the segment, they had talked about a bunch of things, but they got to a point where they were talking about my endorsement of Jon Ossoff. So I want to play this, about a minute long. This is the host. His name is Tom Haynes. Russ Spencer hosts it most of the time, but Tom Haynes kind of fills in. And so this is Tom Haynes, and I want to play for you what he was saying, and then I want to answer his question because, unfortunately, I guess he couldn't invite me on there to explain my position, so I'll do it on my show. Here's what he was saying, and then I'm going to answer his question.
A high-profile split ticket in the Peach State, the conservative commentator that's not going all in on the GOP this fall, and what it means for the election when we come back. Welcome back, everybody. Last week, WSB radio host Shelley Winter surprised some by endorsing Democrat Senator Jon Ossoff, but yesterday he endorsed Republican Rick Jackson in the race for governor. So kind of a split decision going on here. Let's talk about whether that split ticket approach will be the norm for Georgia voters this fall. Carmen, is this a red flag at all for you, or simply one person's opinion? Theron, is this just it seems a little provocative. Maybe he's going for audience. I don't know, or maybe he truly feels that way. I won't take that away from him either. But Ossoff and Jackson, I mean, these couldn't be two polar opposite kinds of people. How do you explain that?
So thanks for asking, Tom. I'd love to answer it. First of all, let me say this. I think in this business, to a large degree, I think our job is literally to go after audience. Not to say things to go after the audience, but to speak our minds. That's literally our jobs. Like, for real, it's in my job description. So the going after audience part, I thank you for saying that. Now, did I do it for that reason? Well, it's part of my job. No, I didn't endorse someone. Ooh, let me endorse this person so people can listen to me. No, it's really what I think. So let me explain why. They're not really two different people. I've come to the conclusion, Mr. Haynes, and everybody listening to me right now, that party affiliation doesn't mean anything anymore. It doesn't. They have a label, Republican. They have a label, Democrat. But look at what's going on the Democrat side. On the Democrat side, there's a ton of people mad at the Democrats because they're not doing anything for the people. Look at on our side, the Republican side. There are a bunch of people who are upset at what's being done in their names that they never voted for. Now, there's a handful out there still screaming and yelling, I voted for this, but you know they're lying because they didn't vote for big spending. They didn't vote for all of this that's going on. They know they didn't. So the party affiliation thing, let's throw that out the window because it doesn't mean anything anymore. But why Ossoff and Jackson? It's a very simple answer to that, Mr. Haynes. The fact of the matter is Jon Ossoff, as a sitting senator for the last several years of being a senator, I've watched him focus on issues that pertained to working and middle-class people. I watched him point out the postal service. I had a caller call in. This happened on my show a couple of years ago. A caller called in and he said, hey, Shelley, are you going to talk about the post office? Because I'm finding, and many of us who are older who rely on the post office for our medicine, we're finding that it's taking a long time and we're not getting it in time. Can you find out what's going on? I ignored that call that night because I had no clue it was an issue. 2 days later, John Ossoff was in the newspaper having a press conference, asking questions of the Postmaster General at the time, saying what's going on in Georgia. And it turned out there was a problem. Nobody else dealt with that problem. This was a sitting senator dealing with a problem in the state of Georgia. Of course, it was with a federal agency, but he was the one who brought attention to it. That's a problem for working class and middle class people. So that's why John Ossoff. I can run down a list of other things. Wall Street companies, huge Wall Street companies buying up properties. That's a problem. John Ossoff reached into that. Child trafficking, John Ossoff reached into that. Marty Kemp reached into it also, but John Ossoff reached into it from the federal level. I didn't hear anybody else talking about it. I didn't hear any of our Congress people on the Republican side talking about child trafficking. I heard my First Lady talking about it. But John Ossoff, these are problems that exist. Not women and men's sports screaming and yelling. I mean, men and women's sports. That's not an issue for me. But you know what? Children being trafficked, that's an issue. Children being trafficked out of foster care, oh my God, that's a huge issue. Children being impacted from that are turned over to DFACs, oh, big problem. I saw John Ossoff talking about that. Nobody else. I saw John Ossoff for the entirety of his term in office, his first term in office, talking about problems that impacted and trying to fix problems that impacted everyday Georgians. That's why Ossoff for me. And on the other side of that race, I don't want a guy in there that's saying, I'm just going to do everything that Donald Trump wants me to do, because I don't agree with a lot of what Donald Trump has done. I didn't agree with the big, beautiful bill when it dropped. Too much spending. You told me you was going to cut spending. You didn't cut spending. You told me you were going to reduce the deficit. You didn't reduce the deficit. I didn't agree with going to war. I didn't agree with putting ICE in the streets. So that's a no-no for me. If you're going to do everything that the president wants you to do, it's a no-no. I'm going to go with the guy that's been talking about the issues impacting Georgia, working class and middle class people. Rick Jackson. I see the same thing from Rick Jackson. I just went to an event to watch Rick Jackson speak, and he spoke about fixing the problems of people, working people, middle class people. That's what he talked about, creating jobs so people can move up in life. That's what he's talking about. He's not throwing out the talking points. I heard him today. I watched him. I heard him. Questions were asked of him from a whole African-American audience. The questions that were asked of him, he was answering the questions. He didn't dance. He didn't throw out little lines. He's answering, going into depth. I also love his backstory. So that's why Jackson and Ossoff, they're not two different people. They're not polar opposites. They might be in different parties, but the parties don't mean anything anymore. And anybody that tells you a Democrat is a Democrat and a Republican is a Republican is lying to you, because neither one of them do anything that the parties originally stood for. They're all out for themselves. And I'm going with two guys who appear to be for me and people like me, working class, middle class Georgians. That's why Ossoff and Jackson. Mr. Haynes, thanks for asking. We'll be right back. It's the Shelley Winter Show. 404-872-0750, 1-800-WSB-TALK. And I promise you, I'm not the only one.